vengeance. I am the night. I am the Batman.
Yes, Matt Reeves' long-awaited Batman film, simply titled The Batman, has arrived. Originally planned as a part of the Snyderverse, with Ben Affleck attached to star and direct, plans fell through as Affleck backed out of the director's chair and eventually stepped away from the role entirely after Matt Reeves picked up the reins. Now Reeves has created a film reportedly separate from the main DCEU, as DC continues its tried but true strategy of throwing whatever at the wall and going with what sticks. Luckily for Reeves and Warner Brothers and Batman fans alike, The Batman sticks. What this means for the future of DC films is anyone's guess, as 2 HBO Max spin-off series and a theatrical sequel are already in the works. If anything, fans will have a larger Batman universe to play in. But if this is the start of a larger Batman shared universe, one outside of the already established DCEU, Reeves and Warner Brothers are off to a decent start. Starring Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, the film picks up with Batman having already been an active vigilante on the streets of Gotham City for 2 years. Despite his efforts, however, crime continues to rise. Gotham is full of corruption, replete with organized crime and mob bosses the likes of Carmine Falcone, played by John Turturro, and the Penguin, portrayed by Colin Farrell. The movie follows Batman as he investigates a string of murders committed against the Gotham elite, those in positions of power such as the mayor. Committing these crimes and leaving a trail of clues is the Riddler, played by Paul Dano. As Batman works alongside Police Lieutenant James Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, to solve the riddles left behind at each crime scene and catch the Riddler, he will unearth secrets about those in charge of protecting Gotham's citizens, and expose deeper corruption unawares to the likes of him and Gordon. Along the way, his path is also crossed by Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz, who has her own score to settle with Carmine Falcone. The Batman leans heavily into the noir and detective aspects of the Caped Crusader, more so than we've seen in film before. Dark and gritty with a bit of Christopher Nolan's grounded realism, The Batman feels like it could lean either way, all into the Dark Knight trilogy's previous realistic take, but also could be right at home in the DCEU or the likes of the Arkham video games or Batman the Animated Series. In fact, Batman the Animated Series is exactly what I feel the film feels closest to. Something that is sure to delight Batman fans the world over, as the animated series is often considered the Batman IP that is closest to the source material. The Batman's noir tone, while gothic and fitting of the character, does have its downsides on occasion, however, as coupled with Batman's brooding nature and the already negative and mostly unfair comparisons of Robert Pattinson to his Twilight films, there are admittedly a few scenes I felt came off as more emo than gothic or noir. Again, these are rare nitpicks, as despite the apprehension and small controversy surrounding Pattinson's casting, I felt he did a fantastic job, and nailed the brutal but calculating nature of Batman. Yes, this Batman is still a bit rougher around the edges and full of anger. He's also younger and has yet to fully realize what his role means to Gotham, something that is well addressed in the plot. In fact, the majority of the cast does well. Wright is spot on as Gordon, and Farrell's a fantastic Penguin. Kravitz embodies the spirit and nature of Catwoman, and even Turturro, whom I was skeptical of as Falcone, does a fine job for what the movie required of the role. Dano stands out in some scenes as perfectly unhinged, yet brilliantly calculating, a perfect modern take on the Riddler. Yet in other scenes, I felt his unhinged yelling came off a bit forced, almost like Dano was desperate to prove he could perform a villain just as iconic as Heath Ledger's Joker. He does a great job, and again his roles serve the story perfectly, but I don't see Dano's Riddler as the embodiment of the character the way I felt Ledger embodied the Joker. And ultimately, that's where my biggest gripes of the movie come from. This is the closest I felt a Batman movie has come to being visually pulled from the comics. Kravitz feels like Catwoman, Farrell is the Penguin, but while these actors nail the tropes of the characters, I do feel like some of their depth is only in servicing the story. Exciting at first, but ultimately you want to know more about why they matter in the long run. Penguin and his rise will be the subject of one of the 2 spin-off series, so we already know more is coming with these characters. I just hope the Batman doesn't fall into Marvel's trap of stringing audiences along by promising the bigger payoffs are always coming in the next project, and then the next project. The Batman seems like a promising start, and I'm interested to see what Reeves' vision of this world and these characters is. Offering both action and visuals while playing on Batman's detective skills, The Batman is a long movie that uses all of its 3-hour runtime. Set pieces are not grandiose, but still, Batman is brutal when he needs to be, and the action is always top-notch. While I can't say I was ever bored or the film doesn't utilize all 3 hours of its runtime, there are still some weaker plot points in the film I felt could have possibly been consolidated for a slightly shorter runtime. Even still, The Batman was for me largely a success. Maybe in need of some slight fine-tuning, but ultimately a good introduction to this version of the character. If nothing else, I felt the movie perfectly established the world. Now hopefully Reeves can build further upon it in his sequels, much as he did with his Planet of the Apes films. I give The Batman 3 out of 4 stars.